After enduring the trials in the deep wilderness rivers, Kofi retreated to the wild for 8 market days. There, he connected with the spirits and surrendered himself to his impending future. Whispers were spreading throughout the village that Kofi had perished during his trial, as it was rumored that he had attained his newfound wealth through deceitful means. Some rejoiced at this news, while others mourned and held on to hope that he would return someday. Kofi's mother was consumed with grief and had not eaten for 2 market days, fearing that an evil spirit or wild animal may have taken her son's life. On the 8th day of the market, when the sun was at its highest point, Mami Wata returned Kofi to the village market square in front of all the villagers. His mother also came to sell her farm produce that day. He appeared adorned in shimmering white robes that seemed to glow in the sunlight, his skin kissed by the sun and gleaming with an otherworldly light. The villagers gasped in awe and disbelief at his return, some falling to their knees in reverence while others whispered among themselves. Kofi's mother, who had been stricken with grief for days on end, let out a cry of pure joy and ran to embrace her son. Mami Wata stood beside Kofi, her presence commanding attention and respect from all who beheld her. She raised her arms to the sky, and a gentle breeze began to stir around them, carrying with it the scent of blooming flowers and distant lands. The villagers watched in wonder as Mami Wata spoke in a voice that seemed to echo from the depth of the earth itself. Kofi has returned from his trials with newfound wisdom and strength, she proclaimed, her words ringing clear and true. He has proven himself worthy of the gifts I blessed him with because I saw he has a pure heart. A great celebration was thrown in the village for Kofi's return. The king declared 2 days as a celebration for the entire kingdom. Nobody was allowed to farm, fish, or do any economic activity on those 2 days. After the celebration, Kofi experienced even more blessings than usual. His farm yields were plentiful and his fishing business grew so much that he was able to hire 10 young boys to work for him. His mother's health improved and she became strong, making it clear that he was highly favored by Mami Wata. Kofi is a kind-hearted man. He regularly gives to those in need, and he willingly offers his time and effort to any youth development initiatives in the village. He has also selflessly trained countless boys in the art of fishing without charging them a fee. Additionally, he takes it upon himself to build and repair homes for widows. In short, Kofi goes out of his way to make sure everyone around him benefits from his generous nature and blessings. However, not everyone admired him. Some villagers harbored a deep hatred for Kofi and plotted to have him exiled by the king. 3 men formed an alliance with evil intentions towards Kofi. They devised a plan to steal the king's staff of authority and hide it under Kofi's bed. One night, they executed their plan by sneaking into the king's chambers and snatching the staff before placing it secretly under Kofi's bed. The next morning, chaos erupted in the village as the king discovered his staff missing. They summoned his council of elders and they concluded that the palace guards will search every house in the village. Kofi was still sound asleep when the palace guards stormed into his house, their armor clanking and their swords drawn. Startled awake by the commotion, Kofi stumbled out of bed, his eyes wide with confusion. The guards wasted no time in tearing through his belongings, tossing aside his meager possessions in their search for the missing staff. His mother wailed in distress, pleading with the guards to stop and insisting on her son's innocence. But the guards were relentless, convinced that Kofi was guilty of this heinous crime. As they approached his bed, Kofi fell to his knees, his heart pounding with fear and disbelief. As one of the guards reached under the bed and retrieved the king's staff, they all shouted in astonishment at what their eyes beheld. Kofi was immediately dragged away and accused of theft. The villagers sang mocking songs as the guards marched him in front of the king. The king's face darkens in anger as he orders for Kofi to be thrown into prison while they wait for his sentencing the next day. The king had a dream that night, where Mami Wata appeared to him. She instructed him not to harm Kofi and told him to summon the chief priest of the neighboring community. Mami Wata promised to reveal how the staff of authority came into Kofi's custody. That same night, Mami Wata appeared to the chief priest and informed him that people from Kofi's village would come for him in the morning. She instructed him to follow them without hesitation and bring a baby fowl, his mirror, and white chalk with him. As the first rooster's crow echoed through the village, the king had already dispatched his guards to the chief priest. They arrived at the shrine and relayed the king's message to the chief priest. The chief priest calmly replied that he was expecting them and proceeded to gather the items that Mami Wata had instructed him to bring. Together, they made their way back to the village. Upon their arrival in the village, Kofi was summoned and forced to kneel before the entirety of the villagers and their king. The king then instructed the chief priest to consult the gods and determine whether or not Kofi was guilty, as well as what punishment should be given to him. The chief priest consulted the divination tools, then took out his mirror and showed the king and villagers what had been revealed. 3 men had stolen the king's staff and planted it under Kofi's bed. They intended to get Kofi banished from the village. The entire community gasped in disbelief at how far these men were willing to go to bring down Kofi. His mother ran over and embraced her son with joy as he was declared innocent. To make amends for publicly humiliating Kofi, the king wasted no time in offering his first daughter's hand in marriage to Kofi, knowing he had always admired her. As a sign of acceptance into the royal family, the king also adopted Kofi as his son since he had no heir of his own, and named him as the next in line for the throne upon his passing. Following that, Mami Wata continued to shower him with blessings. Everything in his surroundings seemed to radiate good fortune and tranquility. His harvests were plentiful, his fishing business thrived, and his mother lived happily in her beautiful home, healthy and strong. To top it off, his wife conceived a child. Right after getting married and giving birth to triplets, she became pregnant again. This time she gave birth to quadruplets. Kofi was greatly esteemed, as people from various places traveled to pay homage and witness the wisdom of the man highly favored by Mami Wata.